Have you ever been punished for doing the right thing? You acted with honesty, you showed your heart. You trusted that being good would protect you, but instead it left you exposed, misunderstood, disrespected, and even betrayed. There's a quiet pain in realizing that your best intentions were used against you, that the more open you were, the more power you gave away. This is the brutal reality most people don't want to face. But if you're willing to face it now, something inside you will shift forever. We grow up believing that sincerity wins, that if you're honest, kind, and fair, others will be the same. But life keeps showing you something different. People lie, take advantage, disappear when you need them, and smile while doing it. And still, you keep hoping. You keep telling yourself they'll see your heart, that one day the world will reward your honesty. But it doesn't. And the truth is, it never will, not unless you learn how power actually works. This is not about becoming cold. It's about becoming aware. Because if you don't, you will keep losing to people who know exactly how to exploit your goodness. The first mistake most people make is believing that intent is everything, that if your motives are pure, the outcome will be fair. But the world doesn't operate on your motives. It reacts to your moves. And when your moves are predictable, when they are soft, when they are based on emotion instead of strategy, you give away every advantage you have. The second mistake is expecting people to understand you just because you explain yourself. You think that sharing more makes you trustworthy. But to the wrong people, it makes you easy to control. Every extra word is a window into how you think, how you feel, and how to influence you. You believe you're being transparent. What you don't see is that your transparency is being weaponized, and by the time you realize it, the damage is already done. The third mistake is assuming peace means safety. When the room is quiet, you relax. When someone stops fighting you, you assume they've surrendered. But silence is often a strategy. Many enemies smile while they plan, and the ones who say nothing, they're often the most dangerous. You must stop confusing calm with security. You must stay sharp, even when things seem. You're not powerless, you're just uninformed. And that ends today. These three honest mistakes are costing you control, dignity, and momentum in life. But when you understand how your behavior gives others power, everything changes. You become harder to manipulate, harder to shake. You stop living on your knees and start thinking like a strategist. This isn't about becoming someone else. It's about becoming untouchable as yourself. Stay with this, because once you understand how the game is really played, you'll never lose the same way again. What feels like pain now will soon become power, the kind no one can take away. When you explain yourself too much, you invite people to dissect you. Every time you justify your actions, overshare your thoughts, or try to make others understand your motives, you hand over your power. Not because truth is wrong, but because excess truth given freely becomes a weapon. You think you're building connection, but what you're really doing is exposing your framework. You're giving them a map of your mind, what hurts you, what drives you, what you fear, and hoping they'll treat it with care, but not everyone will. Powerful people don't explain. They decide, they act, and they let their presence speak. Because once you explain yourself too much, you sound unsure, even when you're right. You sound like you're asking for permission. You invite judgment. The more you talk, the more you lower your value. Think of how easily people interrupt someone who rambles, and how silent they fall around someone who speaks with clarity and restraint. That silence isn't fear, it's respect. And respect isn't given to those who try to prove themselves, it's given to those who don't need to. You're not here to convince the world to like you. You're here to become so rooted in who you are that their approval becomes irrelevant. When someone questions you, not every challenge deserves a response. Not every accusation requires a defense, because once they know you'll always explain yourself, they know how to control the conversation. They'll push your buttons. Ask questions that aren't honest, only traps. Twist your answers until you lose your center, and all the while, you'll be thinking you're just being honest. Silence is power. Precision is strength. Learn to speak with intent, not habit. Not everything you feel must be voiced. Not every move must be justified. The moment you stop explaining yourself to people who haven't earned your truth, you begin to reclaim something sacred, your authority, and people feel it. They may not understand it, but they sense the shift. You become harder to read, harder to control, and that's exactly what makes you powerful. You don't owe the world an open book, especially not to those who flip through your pages just to tear them out. You owe yourself the discipline to protect your energy, your thoughts, your vision. When you learn to hold your tongue, when you pause instead of pouring out your soul, you become a mystery. And mystery isn't weakness, it's dominance in disguise. This is not about silence for silence's sake. It's about speaking with purpose. It's about knowing that your words are currency, and if you give them to everyone, they become worthless. From now on, speak less. Mean more. Say nothing when it serves you better than explanation. Let your presence do the talking, because when they can't read you, they can't control you. And when they can't control you, win. That's how power begins, not with noise, but with silence that cannot be ignored. The most dangerous illusion is believing that others think like you do, that they see the world through the same lens, that they value what you value, but they don't. Some people don't care about fairness. They don't care about honesty, loyalty, or kindness. They care about advantage. And if your mind is still operating on the belief that others are just like you, you're walking blind into their trap. You assume their silence means peace. You assume their smiles mean respect. But beneath the surface, there may be nothing but calculation. You've been told to treat people how you want to be treated, but some use that as a mirror to manipulate you. They know you're honest, so they lie with precision. They know you're forgiving, so they offend without fear. They know you're empathetic, so they play the victim when they're actually the aggressor. This is the game you're in. And if you keep projecting your values onto people who don't share them, you will keep giving your power to those who intend to use it against you. Not everyone wants peace. Some want control. Some want chaos. Some want to win at your expense, and they'll do it with charm on their face and a knife behind their back. If you ignore this, you are not being noble. You are being naive. Stop expecting others to operate by your internal code. Start watching what they actually do, because that's who they are. Words are cheap. Smiles lie. But patterns don't. There is strength in believing the best in people, but there is power in preparing for the worst. When you stop expecting others to act like you remove the blindfold. You stop getting surprised by betrayal. You stop getting crushed by disloyalty. You start seeing people for who they are, not who you wish they were. And in that clarity, you become untouchable. Because now you're not just reacting, you're reading, you're calculating, you're adapting. This doesn't make you cold. It makes you aware. It sharpens your instincts and hardens your boundaries. You stop giving time, energy, and trust to people who haven't earned it. You become less emotional and more strategic, less available and more powerful. The world doesn't need you to be perfect. It needs you to be sharp. And being sharp means knowing that not every person deserves your openness. Some deserve your silence, some deserve your distance, and some deserve nothing at all. You're not here to fix others. You're here to protect yourself, to guard your energy, to recognize that peace doesn't come from hoping people will be good. It comes from ensuring you are never at their mercy again. So, let go of the fantasy that others are just like you. See clearly. Move wisely. Stop walking into traps disguised as friendships. You don't need to match their darkness, but you do need to understand it. Because once you see people as they truly are, they lose the power to hurt you. And that's when you truly begin to rise. Just because someone stops attacking you doesn't mean they've stopped resenting you. Just because it's quiet doesn't mean it's safe. Silence is not always peace. It is often strategy. The most dangerous people in your life are not always the loud ones. They're the ones who say nothing, who disappear when it's convenient, who smile while planning your downfall. When you believe silence means resolution, you drop your guard. And the moment you relax, they strike. Not always with fists, but with whispers, delays, sabotage, and cold indifference designed to fracture your confidence. You've been taught to chase closure, to believe that silence means forgiveness, that distance means healing. But some people withdraw not to reflect, but to regroup. Some step back to calculate. They wait for your weakness. They let time soften your anger, hoping you'll forget how deeply they cut you. And when they return, it's not out of guilt, it's out of convenience. If you don't understand this, you'll keep making the same mistake, assuming absence is innocence. You don't need loud enemies to lose. You just need to ignore quiet ones. While you're busy forgiving, they're planning their next move. While you're hoping things are okay, they're spreading doubt, turning allies against you, and setting the stage for your failure. Not with open war, But with subtle sabotage, their power grows when you stop paying attention, when you stop watching. When you tell yourself to let it go without understanding what I teach really is, silence does not equal peace. It often hides the very war you refuse to see. Strength doesn't come from hoping people change. It comes from expecting their nature to reveal itself. Real power is built on awareness, on never mistaking quiet for safety. If you want to protect yourself, you must stay awake even when things appear calm. You must learn to observe the unspoken, the shift in tone, the sudden distance, the passive-aggressive behavior. These are not harmless. These are signals, and if you miss them, you'll keep falling into traps disguised as second chances. You are not paranoid for staying alert. You are not heartless for setting boundaries. You are not toxic for cutting off those who use silence as a weapon. You are wise, and that wisdom will save you. Stop asking why they went silent. Start asking what they gained from it. What doors did it open for them? What control did it give them over your emotions? Your forgiveness means nothing to those who never intended to apologize. Never confuse stillness with safety. Peace is not the absence of noise. It is the presence of strength. The strength to walk away, the strength to remain calm but never blind. Let others play their quiet games. Let them think you've softened. Let them believe you forgot. But remember everything. Keep your awareness sharp. Let your silence be stronger than theirs. Let your calm be the storm they never saw coming. Because when you master the silence, you master the battlefield. This is why you feel drained after every conflict. Why you leave conversations second-guessing yourself. Why you feel like you're losing ground even when you were the one who spoke with truth. These mistakes, over-explaining, assuming shared values, trusting silence, don't just cost you control. They cost you your identity. They make you doubt your instincts. They trap you in cycles where your strength is buried under guilt, confusion, and misplaced loyalty. And slowly, piece by piece, your power slips through your hands while others grow stronger from what you've given away. You were never weak. You were just misinformed. You thought clarity came from overcommunication. That loyalty came from assuming good in others. That peace came from believing the absence of noise was the presence of trust. But what you were really doing was outsourcing your safety, giving people permission to define you, test you, and decide your worth. You didn't know the rules of power, so you kept playing by emotion. And emotion without strategy is a weapon turned against its owner. When you live unaware of these mistakes, you become easy to control. People know what buttons to push. They sense your need to explain. They hear your hopes in every word. They know that if they stay quiet long enough, you'll come back apologizing for things you didn't even do wrong. They use your empathy to stall you. They use your openness to break you. And worst of all, you let them, because part of you still believes they're like you, that they care like you do, that they see what you see, but you're waking up now. And that awakening is not rage, although it's clarity. It's the moment you stop begging to be understood and start commanding your space. It's the moment you realize that not every loss is worth mourning. Some losses are victories in disguise. When you lose the need to explain, you gain the power of mystery. When you lose the belief that everyone shares your heart, you gain discernment. And when you stop mistaking silence for safety, you gain the awareness that keeps you 10 steps ahead. This is the cost of staying blind, your confidence, your boundaries, your future. But the reward for seeing clearly is something greater than safety. It's power. The kind of power that comes from knowing exactly who you are, what you will allow, and what you will never tolerate again. The kind of power that cannot be stolen because it lives in how you think, how you move, and what you refuse to give away. The rules have always been there, but now you see them. And when you see the game, you stop being a piece on the board. You become the player, calm, focused, dangerous in your silence, ruthless in your clarity. This is how you take your power back, not with noise, not with apology, but with an unshakable understanding of who you are and how easily you once gave it all away. Never again. You don't rise by accident. You rise by design, and that design begins in the mind. When you stop reacting to the world emotionally and start responding strategically, everything changes. You begin to see the moves before they're made. You stop being shocked by betrayal because you've already anticipated it. You stop being shaken by silence because you know stillness doesn't always mean surrender. You become the observer, not the victim. the one who sees the hidden motives behind the smiles, the one who doesn't need validation because clarity has replaced the need to be understood. This is where your transformation begins, when your decisions are no longer driven by guilt, fear, or the need to please, when your focus shifts from trying to be liked to learning how to be respected. You stop handing out explanations like candy. You stop lowering your standards just to keep the peace. You stop waiting for people to give you permission to protect your energy, and in that shift, you gain something far more powerful than approval. You gain command. Quiet, unshakable, undeniable command. Thinking like a strategist means training your mind to question everything. Why are they being nice now? What do they gain if I respond emotionally? Who benefits from my silence? Who profits from my transparency? These are not paranoid questions. These are protective ones. Because the cost of ignorance is control. If you don't start thinking several moves ahead, someone else will always be thinking for you, and they won't be thinking in your favor. Power is not found in aggression. It's found in discipline, in being able to feel deeply but act deliberately, in knowing when to speak and when to stay silent, when to confront and when to withdraw, when to observe and when to strike. The strategist doesn't waste time on proving they're right. They win by being prepared, by being steady, by being mentally untouchable, no matter how loud the world gets around them. You have to let go of the fantasy that people will eventually see your heart and act accordingly. Some never will. And that's not your failure. That's their nature. Your power comes from adapting to it, not mourning it. From building boundaries so clear, no one questions where they stand. From mastering your emotions so completely, no one can use them to manipulate you. From walking into every situation with the quiet confidence of someone who does not need to be liked, only respected. This is how power begins to flow back to you. When your thoughts are no longer scattered, when your emotions are no longer tools in other people's hands, when your silence becomes intentional, not insecure, when your distance becomes clarity, not fear. The world belongs to those who think 3 moves ahead, who feel everything but choose wisely, who speak only when it builds advantage. That's the strategist's way. And it's the only way forward if you truly want to win without ever having to beg, explain, or surrender again. Everything they used to control you was given to them freely. Your time, your reactions, your secrets, your trust, you offered it, believing it would build connection. But connection without discernment is just exposure. And now every piece of you they held over your head, every emotion they twisted, every detail they used against you, becomes a reminder. A reminder that power is not taken, it's surrendered. Slowly, subtly, without you even realizing. Until one day you wake up and wonder why you feel so empty in rooms you used to feel safe in. But emptiness isn't the end. It's the beginning. It's where you reclaim your value, where you stop bleeding energy into people who don't respect it, where you stop letting guilt override your instincts. You begin to realize that you don't need to fix every misunderstanding. You don't need to explain your silence. You don't need to rescue people from the consequences of how they treated you. If they misread your stillness as weakness, let them. That illusion protects your advantage. That false sense of control keeps them from seeing how strong you've become in the quiet. The world rewards perception, and perception is power. When you carry yourself like someone who doesn't beg for clarity, others begin to offer it without you asking. When you speak with measured precision, your words echo louder than the noise around you. When you move with intent, others adjust themselves around your presence. You don't have to force it. Real power never chases. It pulls. It commands. It shapes the room without raising its voice. And you have access to that energy the moment you stop handing out explanations like apologies. This is where you shift from emotional to intentional. You no longer allow the moment to dictate your response. You use time as a weapon. You pause where others rush. You watch where others react. You become unreadable, not because you're hiding, but because you've mastered the art of restraint. No one can weaponize what they don't understand. No one can exploit what they can't predict. This isn't just strategy. This is survival. This is evolution. From this place, you begin to rebuild, not from desperation, but from design. Your circle becomes smaller, your standards rise, your presence becomes rare, and because of that, it becomes valuable. You begin to realize that silence is not the absence of power, it's the presence of control. You don't need to announce every boundary, you just enforce it. You don't need to prove you've changed. They'll feel it in your absence, your energy, your refusal to shrink. You were never weak for being kind. You were just unguarded. But now your kindness is backed by clarity, your heart is protected by vision, and your presence is built on a foundation no one can shake. The version of you they could manipulate no longer exists. In its place stands someone they'll never see coming. And by the time they realize the shift, it will already be too late. You don't need to raise your voice to be heard. You don't need to explain yourself to be understood. The ones who carry true power speak less, move slower, and choose their presence like a weapon. They are not absent because they're weak. They are distant because they're focused. And that's what you must become. Not louder, not softer, clearer, disciplined, deliberate. You've already paid the price of overexposure. Now it's time to make every word, every move, every decision serve your rise. You're not trying to be feared. You're not trying to be liked. You're commanding something far greater, respect. And respect isn't asked for. It's not begged for. It's built. It's earned in the silence you hold, in the lines you draw without debate. In the way you hold your ground when others try to shake it, you no longer walk into rooms trying to be understood. You walk in knowing who you are. And that alone makes the room shift, because presence doesn't come from appearance. It comes from conviction. People feel when you've done the work. They feel when your peace is rooted in strength, not performance. You are no longer accessible to those who drained you. You are no longer explainable to those who misunderstood you on purpose. You are no longer waiting for someone to see your value. You've already seen it. And that changes everything. When you see your own worth with clarity, you no longer tolerate confusion from others. Their approval becomes irrelevant. Their validation becomes noise. What matters now is your alignment, your standards, your peace, your purpose. This version of you doesn't chase closure. It doesn't repeat itself. It doesn't negotiate with disrespect. It moves on in silence. It makes decisions from stillness. It builds from solitude, because you've learned that not everyone deserves access to your clarity. Not everyone deserves an explanation. Some only deserve distance. Some only deserve silence. And some deserve to watch you rise from a distance they can never close again. Let them wonder. Let them assume. Let them create their own stories. Your truth no longer requires their understanding. Because your power was never in convincing others. It was in becoming unshakable without them. You no longer carry the weight of other people's expectations. You've dropped it all. And in that release, you've found a new kind of strength. The kind that doesn't bend to pressure. The kind that doesn't need to be loud to be real. The kind that walks in purpose, not in noise. From this place, you no longer beg. You no longer prove. You no longer wait. You decide. You act. You lead. And those who feel your energy will either rise with you or remove themselves. Either way, you stay grounded. Either way, you stay powerful. Because once you become aligned with your own strength, no one can take it from you. No one can distract you from it. No one can deny it. They can only adjust to the gravity of your presence or be crushed beneath it. This is the moment you stop shrinking. The moment you stop dimming your intensity to make others feel comfortable. You were not meant to be small, silent, or invisible. You were meant to command space with presence, not noise, with certainty, not arrogance, with stillness that unsettles those who relied on your doubt. You don't need to announce who you are when your energy does it for you. The most powerful people aren't loud. They are simply undeniable. And now, so are you. You've shed the habits that weakened you. You no longer explain your worth. You no longer beg to be seen. You no longer hope they change. You've turned inward, sharpened your vision, and built a new kind of armor. Not to hide, but to protect what truly matters. Your time, your peace, your focus, your path. That armor isn't made of hardness. It's made of discipline. Discipline to walk away. Discipline to remain silent. Discipline to hold your standard even when it's tested. Everything that once rattled you now reveals you. The tension, the silence, the betrayal, they don't break you anymore. They inform you. You see them for what they are. Signals, signs, warning. You don't fall into the same traps because you've stopped looking at them through emotion. You see through strategy now. You don't ask why someone disrespected you. You ask what pattern you ignored. You don't try to fix people. You adjust your access. You don't internalize the chaos. They do. You've become the calm in every storm. And calm is the most dangerous thing a person can possess when others are trying to create confusion. You're no longer at war with yourself. You're no longer questioning your own worth just because someone else couldn't see it. Their blindness isn't your burden. It is. Their confusion isn't your responsibility. You're not here to carry what doesn't belong to you. You're here to rise. Quietly, deliberately, ruthlessly, you're here to build. Not with desperation, but with intention. Not with permission, but with power. You don't need to announce your comeback. You don't need to post your progress. You just need to move. Keep building, keep walking, keep refining. Let your results speak languages your enemies can't twist. Let your growth become their silence. The version of you that once overexplained is gone. The version that tolerated confusion is buried in its place is someone with standards so clear they don't have to be spoken. This is your final form. Not perfect, but prepared. Not loud, but lethal. Not desperate, but deeply grounded. Every setback taught you silence. Every betrayal taught you vision. Every loss taught you boundaries. And now you are more than ready, not just to protect your power, but to use it with precision, with confidence, with a presence that shakes the ground without making a sound. You are no longer moved by emotion, you are driven by clarity. And when clarity meets conviction, nothing and no one can stand in your way.